Hey friends, what's up? This is Metro and welcome to my Deadlock item tier list. Now, before we start, let me get a few things out of the way, okay? Deadlock is in the alpha, the balance of the game is changing rapidly, and overall I think the developers are doing a great job at balancing all the items. Almost every item in the game is useful at some point in the game or for some heroes, okay? So the way we're gonna rate the items is we're gonna base it on a few factors. We're gonna look at the effects of the item and how powerful it is in general. Then we're gonna look at how useful it is in certain scenarios, okay? And what I mean by that is, how good is it compared to other items? Is the item only useful like 20% of the time or almost all the time during the game? And then we're gonna look at how many characters can actually use the item, right? There's a few niche items that are really good on certain characters, but then are completely useless on other characters, okay? And if you disagree with anything, that's cool, okay? This is all for fun. Let me know in the comments why you disagree. And if I miss anything, or if I miss any ideas, or you have other inputs, please let me know. I'm here to learn just like you are. I'm probably gonna miss something here, so let me know if anything is up, okay? I ordered it hopefully correctly. This took me like half an hour, by the way. They were all over the place, but let's go. Basic magazine. And what better way to start with than with the most basic item in the game? Gives you more damage, gives you more bullets for 500. Solid item, and I think it's a really good base item to start with, right? It's useful on a lot of characters buy this. It's not an amazing item a lot of the time. It's better on some, like Wraith. If you already have a really big magazine size, this makes it even better. I buy it on Infernus all the time. Continuing, close quarters. And here is where we get into the intricacies of some items, okay? Close quarters is pretty interesting. It gives you a bullet shield, but more importantly, it increases your damage by a lot if you close range, within 15 meters. A lot of the time, it won't be active, okay? It will be active if you farm creep camps in the jungle, or if you're like a very close range character like Abrams. It's really, really good, obviously. But on other characters that are playing somewhat ranged, like let's say Wraith or even Haze, a lot of the time this won't be active. So I would actually say it is a below average item, simply based on the fact, while the effect is really, really strong, and while I use it on quite a few characters, it is not always active. And in my philosophy about the game, I don't know about yours, an item that always works in every single team fight against almost every comp is mostly more useful than items that only work in very specific niche cases, right? Like if you're playing a brawler, this is a great item. It's not awful, it's pretty good, but yeah. Headshot booster, I will give an A tier. I think being aggressive in the lane is really, really useful. This adds a lot of pressure on the enemy, as all you have to do is you have to proc a headshot like every few seconds, and it's gonna add a lot of damage to your shots. It's gonna allow you to harass the enemy players out of the lane very well. It's gonna probably enable you to get more kills in the lane, and it's a proactive item in the sense that your skill is rewarded by using it, and it really helps you in the lane. It's probably an item that is good on a lot of characters, on most characters, and I think it's very solid. Easy A tier. High velocity, one of the newer items in the game, adds bullet velocity. Yeah, also adds weapon damage and gives you a small bullet shield of 50. I think this is really, really good for securing last hits if you're playing further away, because there's bullet travel time, so it's a very solid item in lane. That being said, I don't think it is. I'm almost gonna put it below, a tiny bit below average, and you might hate me for this. If you're fast reaction time wise, unless you're playing like very far back, or unless you're playing a character that has very slow bullet travel speed like Warden, on which I think this item is amazing on, I don't think it's necessarily needed, right? It doesn't give you a lot of stats compared to the other earlier items in the game that help you a lot in the long run. Again, good on a few characters like Warden, where you really need the extra bullet speed, but otherwise not really necessary in my opinion. I know some people swear on this, again, don't hate me. There we go, Hollow Point Ward. And I'm also gonna rate this low B, and I always wanna put it C. For the exact same reason. It is an item that gives you extra damage, but only if your health is above 60%. And a lot of the time in the lane, even if you play it really well, there will be times where you will drop below the 60% health, okay? A lot of characters cannot sustain as hard, or a lot of characters want to be lower health, or sometimes you want to trade out aggro, you want to trade to your own HP to secure more last hits. So I don't think this item is universally amazing. When it works, when you play really safe, when you're playing a character like Vindicta, for example, or Great Talon, I think it's a great item. Otherwise, yeah, low B tier at best. Monster Rounds, I think, is my first S tier item. And I think Monster Rounds is incredible on characters that buy a lot of spirit damage. And you might think, why is an orange item great that doesn't give you any bonus spirit on spirit damage characters? And the reason being is, if you run spirit damage, and right now as we speak the meta is spirit damage, it might change, but if you're running a lot of spirit damage and your main damage output is spirit damage, it's going to be harder for you on average to kill creep waves fast, and it's going to be harder for you on average to farm jungle camps, right? And this item really helps a lot with that, right? It doesn't help you against other players, right? So in fights, it's basically kind of useless because it only gives you a bit of bonus health. But it makes it so you can put a lot of pressure on creeps, and it makes it so you can farm creeps faster. Now, if you're running gun damage on a lot of characters, or if you're running something like Viscous that has like a good tools to farm the jungle faster-ish, it's not really necessary. But yeah, if you're running gun, I don't think this is super good. But if you're running spirit, I think this item is truly amazing. It adds so much value for 500. It allows you to play your build without having to go out of your way to spend a lot of money just to make your farming speed faster, to push lanes faster, etc. S tier item. Rapid rounds, I think situationally, depending on the hero you play, really, really good. It increases the bullet speed, which on a lot of characters really helps with the synergy with the hero itself. So let me give you two examples. One would be Haze. Haze wants to build stacks of fixation, right? So the more bullet speed you have on Haze, or the more bullet speed, the higher fire rate you have on Haze, the better it is. Same for Infernus. On Infernus, your main target or your main goal is to get a burn on an enemy hero in a fight. And Rapid Rounds really helps with that. So I think on characters, it's really good on. It is an amazing item and almost must pick. Restorative Shot recently got a buff. It's really good now. It's kind of like, the way I like to think about it, it's like extra regen, but more aggressive, okay? So what Restorative Shot does is, it allows you to get 40 healing every time you hit an enemy hero, 15 healing from NPCs, and it also adds more bullet resist and adds more weapon damage, okay? So it's an offensive alternative to extra regen that is amazing in the lane for a lot of characters. If you're under pressure, but you don't want to necessarily play mega passive and you still want to keep pressure up on the enemy, you buy this and you make sure every 6-7 seconds you shoot an enemy hero for once, and you will sustain a lot. You will heal more with this item than you will heal with the extra healing you get from this item is higher than the extra healing you get from extra regen, okay? Now, of course, you don't get the bonus health from extra regen, etc, etc. But this is going to allow you to play aggressive while sustaining, while staying alive. Amazing S tier item. It's so good. It's so good. Don't hate me for this. I think active reload is below subpar. It used to be really good. It got nerfed like 3 times in a row because it was so popular, and it still feels really good. So what you do is you hit that active reload button, right? And it gives you higher bullet speed or higher fire rate, and it gives you bullet lifesteal. And it makes you reload faster, right? So you can just shoot longer. The reason I don't think it's great anymore is it fills up a slot if you run gun damage, which most of the time this is in gun builds, I would say, right? Like if you want a faster fire rate and more damage on your gun, this is an item you would buy if you want to deal more gun damage. Gun damage is not great right now, but more importantly, it fills up a slot in orange that most characters, I think, that run gun damage would want to fill with other items, okay? I'll still put it high C because it's not bad at all. It's like a tiny bit below average, I think. And it's still great on some characters. But I do think Quicksilver Reload, which we're going to talk about later, is way better in most scenarios because the stats are just way better. It doesn't give you the instant reload that Quicksilver has. So I think it's just an okay item, okay? Okay, Berserk just got buffed in the last patch. A very aggressive item that is really good on something like Shiv or Gun Abrams or Melee Abrams. So what it does is it gives you weapon damage per stack. The more damage you take, the more stacks you get, and there's a max of 10 stacks. It also gives you extra bullet resist and extra ammo. But it's not a lot of characters it really doesn't do anything with, right? You use this item on very aggressive brawlers that want to be in the fight like non-stop. Warden, right, comes to mind. Warden, Shiv, Abrams. Like characters that want to take a lot of damage and leech a lot of healing from the enemy with their abilities, like Shiv with his passive or 3, and the bleed, and Abrams with his 1 ability, etc, etc. So, Berserk, C tier, not universally useful item, right? Like there's items that are bought way more in general, but it's still a good item. Kinetic Dash, what it does is it gives you free stamina basically. You can jump dash with 1 stamina bar. Or dash jump, sorry. And it's gonna increase your fire rate after it. What else does it do? I missed something. So it increases the fire rate when you jump dash, and it gives you temporary ammo. And it gives you bonus health. Okay, so it's like just an item to farm the map faster, and I think it's an amazing offensive mobility item. I do think sometimes in fights it's clunky to use, in the sense of, do you really want to jump dash to get the faster fire rate? Like if you initiate the fight with it, it's amazing if you get around initiating with it, but if you want to use it mid-fight, like you either use it to get out when you have low stamina, right? Or it's kind of clunky to use, in my opinion. Some people swear on it. I think it's a solid high mid-tier item. Long range, first D tier. I see almost no one buy this, and I think the only time you want to have this, correct me if I'm wrong, the only time you want to have this is on characters that really want to stay long range and build gun. Like if you build a gun Great Talon or a gun Vindicta, both of which are not amazing right now, right? And even then, again, it's a situational item in the sense that it only kicks in on long range, and a lot of the time you will be on the shorter end of the range if you get caught, or if you end up, the enemy closes the gap to you, and then suddenly this item does basically nothing anymore, right? The effect only applies at 15 meters distance or higher. For that alone, I don't think it gives you enough stats to make it worth. It gives you bullet shield, it gives you ammo. And again, weapon damage conditional, and like even on Vindicta and Great Talon, like if you want to farm a creep camp, then this is not going to be active. I think it's a bad item. I think they need to buff it in some way. It's hard to say, because if they buff it more, then it might suddenly turn out to be OP on specific niche characters, but I think it's a very niche item, and for that reason I put it in D tier. Not the worst item in the game by far, but it's like probably high end of the D tier. Melee charge got buffed. If you like punching people, this is amazing. It increases the lunge distance of your heavy melee, it increases the damage of your heavy melee, and it gives you more armor after you hit a heavy melee, right? Now, before you say just parry, good players will melee when they are pretty sure they can get away with it, and good players will also bait out parries, right? And then go in. I think it's an amazing item for melee-based builds on a lot of characters. You can definitely build this on Abrams. You can build this on something like, there's like a melee Lady Geist build that is insane, low-key sleeper, that I might make a video on. Really good item. But that being said, now that I think about it, I can't rate this higher than Basic Magazine and Kinetic Dash, because it's just, again, more situational, and a lot of the time it's a really good item stats-wise if you go for melee builds, but again, it only really does work on builds that use a lot of melee. Mystic Shot, I think, is an easy A tier. Mystic Shot is an item that adds spirit damage to your bullet, and this is great synergistic. This has great synergistic properties for characters that build spirit but also want some weapon damage, or want their main gun to deal good damage as well. Like, for example, Wraith card build, this item is amazing. Or 7, for example. Great on Kelvin, great on Lady Geist. It really depends. Like, it's a multi-versatile item. It gives you spirit power, weapon damage, and it always works, right? It always adds that bonus spirit damage. So I think it's a super multi-versatile item that is really good. Flying bullets, solid choice. I don't like it personally. I think like I've seen more McGuinness players use this to catch up to targets, to help their team, right? If you're gonna shoot bullets, like, this allows your team to catch the enemy easier, right? It slows the bullets down, it adds damage. It's nothing special. Yeah, low B tier. Soul Shredder bullets, I would say high A tier. It's an amazing item. So what this does is it applies a debuff to the enemy. Once they're debuffed, it lasts for 6 seconds and it gives you Spirit Lifesteal, which is amazing, which means on 7 you shoot them, right? And then you have your 3 active, or you stun them and you have your 1 active and you get the melee lifesteal back. So it's like an offensive Spirit Lifesteal kind of ability is the way I would describe it. And it works on so many characters. It's amazing on Infernus. Again, amazing on Card Wraith. Really good on 7. Yeah, a great talent. It works. I think it works on Bebop. It's really, really strong. High A tier, for sure. Swift Striker. I might be a bit biased. Actually, I'm gonna try to not be biased. I love this item on Wraith, and Wraith is my main character. But I do think it's a niche-ish item. It has a downside. It reduces your bullet resist, and while there's a lot of items right now in the game that give you bullet resist, and bullet is not really meta, it does have downsides. But again, it's a great item on characters that want more fire rate, like Haze, like Wraith to an extent, like Infernus. But Infernus is probably going to build way more around the spirit damage. I've not seen a lot of Infernus players play this. That being said, I kind of want to try this out. But yeah, solid. Do I put it? I'll put it high C tier, because I do think it's niche enough to not be amazing. Okay, here. Hottest take of the year, maybe not really. I think Fleetfoot is one of the best items in the game. Okay? And I know the comments are going to be like, Kinetic Dash is actually better. But I disagree. I think this item is amazing. I think the fact that... So every character, when they shoot, they have a slowdown of the character, okay? So while you shoot, you move slower, okay? And this item just removes that altogether, okay? So that's the passive, okay? I'm not even talking about the active. Which means, if you buy this on something like Haze or Wraith, you can keep on shooting at normal, full fire rate, and you can keep on moving at full fire rate. So you can kite back. If the enemy runs into you and is an Abrams, you can kite back at full speed, even proc it, right? Where it gives you more armor and more movement speed. So you can kite back, you can keep on chasing. It's an amazing item to chase the enemy down. It's an amazing item to get away from the enemy. And it's an amazing item to keep up any sort of damage on any character. You can build this item on almost any character in the game. I'm sure there's exceptions. And it will get value. It's amazing. If you have not tried Fleetfoot, try it. I love this item. I think it's one of the best items in the game. Burst Fire. I only ever see Haze players use this. It's actually a good item, kinda. It gives you fire rate, and it gives you increased slide distance, which is really, really nice. And it gives you bonus health. And it increases your fire rate even more when you shoot an enemy, right? And it has a cooldown. It's a solid niche choice, depending on the character. But nothing amazing. Not an item you would buy on most characters. There's better 3000 weapon items in the game for sure. It's just niche. It's great on Haze, I'd say. That's about it. Escalating Resilience. So this gives you bullet resistance for every bullet you hit. Which means this is an amazing item if you need bullet resistance and you play a hero that has a fast fire rate, right? Because it is per bullet. So this doesn't really do much on slow shooting characters, but this is amazing on something like Wraith if you if the enemy has a lot of bullet damage. You just buy this, and as long as you shoot, you have, what does it go up to? I think it's 40%. Let me double check. Yeah, this item goes up to 40% maximum bullet resist, okay? So this 3k item does more, gives you more bullet resist, or yeah, it gives you more bullet resist than actual, what's it called? Bullet armor, okay? And yes, I know it's a more expensive item, but it gives you almost as much bullet resist as improved bullet armor, okay? Plus it gives you more damage, plus it gives you more fire rate. So it's an amazing item. And again, only works if you shoot the enemy, right? So if you get caught out and chain stunned and you don't have this active, then it does nothing. It's an amazing alternative to bullet armor, and it's really, really good on fast firing characters if you need the bullet resist, okay? The reason I'm not putting it higher than B is because I do think it is situational. It's pretty good on a lot of characters, but you don't buy it every game, right? It's a situational item. It's not always active, or it's not always something you want to buy. Something you always want to buy if you're running gun. This item is actually crazy. I don't know why it's not nerfed yet. I think like people are already calling it really, really strong, and I still think it's underrated. So gives you damage, bullet shield health, fire rate, but the more important part is you do an insane amount of chunk if you hit a headshot. And this headshot multiplier is active every 6 seconds, and it also heals you for 8% of your max health every time you hit this, right? So as long as you hit one headshot every 6 seconds on any hero, you do an amazing chunk of damage on the enemy and it heals you. It's like legit one of the best weapon items in the game, in my opinion. Now, on characters that have a lot of trouble hitting headshots, that are very slow fire rate, or if your aiming is kind of mid, it's not as good. I'm actually gonna put it... No, I think this belongs in S tier. I think it's truly that good. I think it can be used on a lot of characters. And even if you don't run a full gun build, and let's say you're mostly focused around spirit damage or casting, you know, lowering your cooldowns for casting, it's still an amazing item to give you both offensive damage, like a high burst, and healing. It's really good sustain. It's an amazing item. If you haven't tried it out, try it out. It probably works on your hero. I cannot think of a lot of heroes this wouldn't work on. Let me know in the comments. Hunter's Aura, in my opinion, this is a low C tier item. This gives you negative bullet resist on enemies, and it gives you it reduces their fire rate slow in 15 meters. And if there's only one enemy around you, it triples the effect. Okay, so if you take a lot of 1v1s, this is good. But who are really a lot of people that take... Again, when we're thinking about how often you would use this in scenarios, in 1v1 scenarios, the only character this really applies to is Wraith. Wraith wants to take a lot of 1v1s. On Haze, I don't even think this is good, because the other bonus it gives you, it's just 150 health. It's like a support item, kinda, right? It's like a support item, because it does reduce, like, everyone's bullet resist around you. So I would probably build it around support characters like McGinnis, if you play McGinnis with your team. But I think it's niche. Intensifying Magazine, I think this is really solid item. It gives you, the longer you shoot your bullets, the more damage you do, up to 60% bonus damage. This got nerfed from 75. It was so strong before. It was like overpowered. But again, not applicable to a lot of characters. McGinnis can run this if you run Gun McGinnis. Wraith, Haze can run this. If you have a lot of magazines, I think it's a great solid item. It's good. It's good. Average item. Great on some characters, useless on others, right? You can use this on Ivy, Bebop maybe, even though nobody's running Gun Bebop. Point blank, I gotta be honest, I don't use this item enough, probably. It suffers the same issue that Close Quarter does, where, you know, you need to be up close. So I think this is like really good on Abrams. I like some characters this is broken, but on others it really doesn't do enough to justify it for me. Yamato, you could buy this, but right now everyone is buying, everyone is running Spirit Yamato, right? You want to like spend your money on Spirit items, and not a lot of people are on Gun in general. So I'll actually rate this low. Low B tier, okay? And again, the meta might change, guns might come back, right? Right now there's so much bullet resist in the game, so many items of which ones we've already looked at, so many items have bullet resist extra, that bullet damage in general is just not great, so I think Point Blank is just a mid item. Pristine Emblem I think is very solid. Again, not much to say other than it's one of those hybrid items that also gives you spirit, I think, right? Yeah, it gives you spirit power, spirit resist, which is really valuable. I think spirit resist is more important than bullet resist because there's fewer items that give it to you. So I think if you are getting bursted by a lot of spirit, this is a good item to buy, plus spirit armor. Great on Card Wraith. Paradox, I think Paradox buys this sometimes, but otherwise I can't think of a lot of characters that buy it. I think it's good. It's like a solid hybrid item. Sharpshooter. I never see anyone buy this. There's very few items that I don't know what they do, but this one I have to look up completely. Oh, that's because it's the follow-up to Long Range. I didn't... that makes sense. Nobody plays Gun Vindicta right now. Or Gun Yamato, not Yamato, Gun Great Talon. But if you do, it's probably a good choice. But if you don't play one of those two characters, it's useless, I think. So niche that it's not quite terrible. I don't want to call it terrible, because again, I think it is good on long-range guns, long-range snipers, if you use the gun build. I get made fun of for running this item in my Wraith build because everyone thinks this is horrible. And I actually agree. This is a super niche item that is only useful on very few characters. I think it is great on Wraith for farming. I think it is great on 7 for farming, okay? And I think it's an amazing item if you combine this with Bullet Shredder resist, depending on the hero you're on, because it applies spirit damage for free to everyone. So they'll always have the Bullet Resist Shredder active also, okay? So I think this is great on hybrid damage where you want to reduce their bullet armor. It is not an amazing item, and yeah, I like the thing is it's supposed to speed up your farming, and it does. It helps with farming, but it's a pretty big investment to farm fast. Okay, niche item that is really good on certain characters. I'm not gonna put it quite D because I do think it is an amazing item on Wraith, and I do think it's a really good item on 7. No. We have to fill the D tier. I have a few picks for the D tier that are way worse, in my opinion. Okay, Titanic magazine. Some people really like this. I think it's trash. I think like it gives you so much. It got buffed by like a lot. It gives you like 120% bonus ammo now. 18% extra weapon damage and 18% bullet resist. But again, bullet resist you get by buying almost anything, right? So you're not going to go out of your way to buy this. If you need more bullet resist, you're probably going to buy bullet armor, or you're going to buy escalating resilience that we just talked about. And do you really need 120% extra ammo in your magazine? If you manage your reloads properly, if you go into a fight with full ammo and you have some way of reloading fast, like Quicksilver reload or active reload, right? You probably won't need that many bullets. And this is just overkill. You're investing 3,500 or 3,000 if you already have basic magazine. You're investing so much money into this item for more bullets that you're probably never gonna use. Usually you need like 1 or 2 magazines to clear a creep camp, right? If you're a Quicksilver reload, you press 1 button. You can spend your time reloading while you go from creep camp to creep camp. So it's not gonna speed up your farming by a lot. And it's not going to help you in fights by a lot, because there's way more better options that actually add extra damage if you're going for gun damage, right? But I think this is really poor. I guess on McGinnis, it synergizes really well, because like McGinnis has that wind up where she shoots faster and faster, right? Like, so I guess. But otherwise, maybe on Ivy, Toxic Bullets is easy S tier. And I say that while it is actually situational. Actually, I'm gonna put it A tier. I take that back. Okay, I need to follow my own rules. It's an amazing item to shut down healing, okay? If you go up against an Infernus, this is almost always a must buy if you're running a gun-based build, okay? If you're not buying Heal Bane. If you're going up against an Abrahams that heals a lot. If you're going up against a Shiv that does a lot of healing. There's so many characters in the game that have so much sustain and so much healing, and this item just shuts them down, okay? It's an amazing effect. It's an amazing effect. For 3k, you can basically guarantee dealing more damage than a lot of 6.3k items by just shutting down their healing. And this shuts down healing by 65%, right? It used to do more bleed damage. I think it used to be 8%. Now it's 5% per second. So it's not really about the bleed. And otherwise it only gives you bonus health. I wouldn't really buy this for the bleed by itself, even though there is some like synergies, because the bleed is spirit damage. So you can do like combos with like Mirage. But yeah, it's an amazing item. It's really good. It's one of the most useful situational items that against certain characters you really wanna buy, right? It's also insane and a must-have on Infernus, by the way, because it just shuts down everyone. Okay, first meme item. Alchemical Fire. If anyone in the comments can let me know. Like, one guy told me that this is like amazing apparently with Kelvin ult. I don't even know what this item does because I've never seen anyone use this. And I play really high level. Maybe I missed it, maybe someone used it against me and I didn't notice and I died to it. Throw a flask that explodes on contact, creating an area that does increasing spirit damage per second and causes enemies to receive additional weapon damage from your team. Deals 40% less damage to non-heroes. So it's like an AoE that does do spirit damage, and you will do more weapon damage to them. So I guess there is a synergy with this and the ult of Kelvin, where you put it in the bubble, and I would love to see someone try that or show me. But I I don't think I've ever played against this item. I'm struggling to think of other scenarios where this is good. Because it's like kind of like just a worse Ivy one, right? Like the vines of Ivy that were so insane this last week until they nerfed it. It's still insane, by the way. The Ivy, the Katsu bomb shit is so annoying. But this is like the worst version because it doesn't slow the enemy in there, right? So you can just walk out of it. It's 10 meter radius. Either way, 3,000 for an item that is super situational at best. Probably needs a buff or something to see use, because I don't see anyone use it. Heroic Aura, however, I think is very solid. A lot of characters buy this. It's a team fight ability. It gives you and your allies movement speed, fire rate. It's a really big radius to use it. It also buffs your minions, apparently. I didn't know that. And it gives you bullet lifesteal. I think this is an amazing item. Or, you know, this is a solid item. Niche. We're not even through the damage. Oh my god, we have so much left. Warpstone. S tier. Active S tier. This is insanely multi-versatile. It's an instant teleport forward. You can use this to get in, to get out. This is useful on almost every character in the game. It gives you bullet resist after you use it. So you can use this with like lady guys, right? You get low, you force a fight. They think they keep their distance. They think you can't ult them. You warpstone into them. You suck them dry. They die. Paradox. You swap someone in of the enemy team, and then you warpstone out. You live. You kill someone. This is like useful on almost every character. Almost as good as Fleetfoot, where it's useful on almost every character, and it just has so much like nice stats, right? Like while this is active, unless you're like 1v6, you're probably not gonna die to bullets. And yeah, it gives you spirit power, damage, like, so it's like useful on everything. If you're not running 3 or 4 active items, in the mid to late game, you're kind of throwing. Because active items, if you use them properly, just give you so much more options as a player, right? I know a lot of players that don't have a MOBA background, or even people that have a MOBA background, are struggling with using a lot of active items. But there is a reason you can only run 4. Because if you could run more, you could make some really broken builds, right? So try to practice your active items, and this is an easy one to use. You press the button, it teleports you forward. Crippling Headshot, A tier. Out of all the 6.3k items for damage, probably the most solid one. If you hit the enemy in the head, they receive a penalty to their bullet resist and their spirit resist. Which means in teamfights, if the target you shoot is going to take more damage from your entire team. It improves your damage as well, gives you more bullet lifesteal, more spirit lifesteal. So it's actually pretty multi-versatile. You can run it on like a lot of characters. Like I was gonna say almost every scenario, but like you buy it a lot, and it's a solid item. Unlike Frenzy. Listen, I know there's like niche case scenarios for Frenzy. I know characters like Abrams can use it, or like it's okay on Lady Geist. But you're spending 6,300, or sorry, 6,200 now. You're spending 6,200 for extra ammo, more weapon damage, more bonus health, and then the active, or the passive I should say, is it only applies when you're below 40% health. Do you really want to end up below 40% health? Probably not, right? Unless you're like a Lady Geist. But then on Lady Geist, you probably run like spirit items instead. The funny thing is they changed this in the last patch. It used to give 45% spirit resist, now it gives 45% bullet resist. And I would argue in a lot of these fight scenarios where you are below 40% health, there's a way higher chance right now you get bursted down by some spirit items rather than rather than bullet damage. In a lot of cases. So it's even worse than before, in my opinion. Super niche. Probably the worst item in the game. Maybe Alchemical Fire comes close. Actually, I'll put Alchemical Fire. One of the worst items in the game. Same for Glass Cannon. While not quite as terrible as the other options, I think it is mega niche. Glass Cannon gives you insane damage while making you less tanky. And the effect is, you get extra 10% damage every time you kill someone, okay? But if you die, you lose a stack. So this only really gets insane value once you get a few kills after you buy it, right? So what is the niche, like what is the niche case scenarios you could use this in? Vindicta, if you run Gun Vindicta, you could probably play pretty safe and get kills to get this active. But the thing is, if you don't get it active, there's just better options, right? It's probably better to just buy, if you are into gun damage, it's probably better to buy Crippling Headshot or Lucky Shot or Spiritual Overflow, depending on the hero, or Vampiric Burst, right? So if you have a lot of money, there are just better options, in my opinion, than this item. And this has a very high risk factor. It's a snowball item, where if you get ahead, and you're like the most farmed on both teams, and you're pretty sure you can get kills in the next few minutes after you buy this, then it's really good, right? Don't get me wrong. As soon as you have like 3-4 stacks on this, or you get up to 7, it's insane, right? Like then you have insane damage. But again, it's a risky item because it also lowers your overall health, and health in this game is really important, right? Fights right now tend to not be over instantly. There's not a lot of mega burst, I'd say. It's a lot of sustain right now, for sure. And a lot of spirit damage. So, yeah. Just not a great item. I still buy it sometimes on Wraith if I get really far ahead as a meme. But then I still end up dying because I bought this, and then I'm mad at myself. So, Lucky Shot. I always mention this. Smifu is a Lucky Shot hater. And everyone seems to think now that Lucky Shot is a bad item because people don't understand how it works properly. So, it only gives you 30% extra ammo. But the main effect is that every third bullet, or 35% proc chance, it slows the enemy down, and it adds basically double damage. I think it's 85%. 90% extra bonus damage. And 30% movement slow, okay? And it can proc on every hit. The reason this is actually a pretty solid item, and I'll put it low B tier, actually. But the reason this is actually a pretty solid item is it does not get affected by headshot multiplier. So that bonus damage will always be there, okay? So unless you hit all headshots, this item in 1v1 scenarios is going to allow you to deal more damage than crippling headshot. Now obviously in a teamfight, crippling headshot is probably more important, but if you're a player, like if you're a character like Wraith that has a lot of 1v1 scenarios, this is a solid item, and it's like one of the best items to slow the enemy down and catch them. It's a really offensive item. Great on Vindicta, Gun Vindicta also. Yeah, super solid in my opinion. Actually, I'll put this C tier because, like, again, not a lot of characters use this. This is probably going to be the most controversial take of the video. Don't hate me for this. My chat loves Ricochet, and the overall player base loves Ricochet, and I get it, okay? It looks cool. You shoot one bullet and it hits all of them. And it's like really cool for farming, right? You go onto a lane, shoot one creep, and they all die. It looks amazing. But why is it trash? Why is it actually high D tier? Like, it's not awful, but why is it high D tier and not like super good? In my opinion, spending 6,200 to get an item that allows you to farm faster is only feasible if you're mega ahead and you get this super early. Imagine the other case scenario. Let's say you get ahead early. Imagine you buy like a 3k item and another 3k item. I don't know. That doesn't matter what hero you're on, right? Let's assume you bought Tesla instead, or let's assume you bought like Burst Fire on Haze. Something else to get around faster. By the time you are at Ricochet, you already farmed probably more creep camps, you already probably had more team fights. And what does Ricochet really give you other than the effect of hitting multiple targets? Basically nothing, right? It gives you ammo, a bit of fire rate, 10%, it's not even 15, and bonus health. There are niche case scenarios where it's useful, okay? It's amazing on Infernus, because Infernus applies his burn effect on everything that is hit by Ricochet. It is amazing on Haze, because Haze can use her ultimate, and Ricochet works with the ultimate, okay? So it hits multiple targets and you will deal insane damage with the ultimate. It is pretty good on Card Wraith, because on Card Wraith you hit multiple targets and it works on recharging the cards, and you get more cards back quicker. But what else is it really amazing on? If you buy this on other characters, to farm, you're throwing. It's not gonna make you deal a lot more damage in fights, unless the enemy is super clumped up, and good players will not clump up. They're not gonna sit all 5-6 together, so you can hit all of them with Ricochet. So I've played with this item a lot, and what I found out in fights is, a lot of the time, you hit one target, maybe two, and the second target gets, what, 60% extra damage? Instead of like no damage, but imagine you had another 6.2k item like Lucky Shot, where you suddenly deal way more to a single target, and the first target dies faster. I think Ricochet is completely overrated. I think it's one of the most overrated items in the game. I feel like I didn't explain it super well, and I'm gonna stop talking about it now, otherwise we're never gonna be done. Spiritual Overflow adds more spirit damage the longer you shoot. Also an amazing item on certain characters. I think this is great on Infernus. I think you can make this work with a lot of characters. Gives you extra spirit lifesteal as well. Niche, you know, you don't use this on everything. Solid item. Shadow Weave. It is very, very good. It gives you basically the haze invis for every character in the game. And after you come out of invis, you have 40% increased fire rate and you have insanely high bonus spirit. So for 8 seconds, you have 40% fire rate, which is insane. And more importantly, you have insane spirit damage. So again, amazing item. Amazing item. Super multi-versatile. If you get this, it works on a lot of characters, especially if you want to deal spirit damage. It works really well on initiators in fights. Like Wraith again, you go in and you initiate with a lift. And then you throw all your cards and they do more damage. And your bullets shoot faster, so you get your cards back faster. So amazing on Infernus. Yeah, really, really good item. Really good item now. Yes. Silencer. Mid. Very expensive. Silence sounds like a nice effect. And again, amazing item on Haze, because the ult can hit, you know, the entire team basically. So it can shut down a lot of people. But as a single target thing, why not buy Silence Glyph, right? Which is way cheaper, which we're gonna get into later. Why not buy that instead? So yeah, I'll put this C tier actually. I think it's too niche to be useful. Vampiric Burst, super multi-versatile item. Insane lifesteal, works on melee characters, like, you know, works on Abrams, right? Works on Haze, works on, like, I think it's a really one of the best 6.2 weapon items. Enduring Spirit. It's better than basic magazine right now. Because, like, you know, spirit damage is king. A lot of people use it. I think it's good. I think it's, yeah, we'll put it high B tier. Nothing amazing, you know? Nothing, no one is gonna be like, oh, you bought Enduring Spirit. You win the game now. You know, it's mid. Extra health does exactly what it says it does. It gives you extra health. And it's like a solid slot filler. My philosophy in this game is being active more useful than being passive. It's nice if you're playing a tank, this is nice to start with. Even on like some squishier characters, it's nice. I see some people buy this on Haze. But it doesn't really give you much of anything other than that, right? Extra regen I actually really like, because it just gives you passively more health and more regen, okay? And as long as you play the safe kind of, as long as you play the lane kind of safe, this is gonna keep you alive most of the time. But I don't think it's restorative shot, right? Again, if you take the active measure of hitting the enemy heroes a bunch, this is gonna give you way more value than extra regen. So I think it's a solid item, and you can buy it on any hero, and it's gonna keep you alive. But yeah, it's good. It's a mid item. Extra stamina, I think, is insane value, actually. I'm gonna put this high A tier, okay? For 500, you get an extra stamina bar, and it gives you more fire rate, I think, right? So this is like insane value for 500. If you have a 3 stamina character, like an average character, and you buy this, you get around the map way faster for 500. It's gonna allow you to get in fights faster, chase better, right? It's gonna secure you a lot of kills, because you have that 1 extra dash, or that 1 extra jump. It's gonna allow you to survive more, because you have that 1 extra dash to escape. It's an active item in the sense that it also gives you fire rate, right? It's amazing. I think this is a really good item. I always want to put it, I almost want to put it S tier. I'm gonna put it low S tier. Now this one I think is kind of controversial again. I think melee lifesteal is kind of mid nowadays. They nerfed it, and I know a lot of people love it and loved it like last patch, but I think it's mid. And the reason being is, if you hit an enemy with it, an enemy player, it does insane healing. But in a lot of scenarios, even if you play an aggressive hero that wants to melee a lot, and if you melee a lot in lane, right, which you do anyways if you play the game correctly, you're gonna hit mostly creeps. And then if you compare this to, again, restorative shot or endure or extra regen, it doesn't give you that much healing if you hit creeps mostly with it. Okay. And sometimes you're just gonna be in a situation where you can't hit something melee safely. And then this item becomes useless. It's just not active at all times. Okay, and the effect, which is really good, you can't use all the time. So I don't think it's that great. I think it's still a solid item, but it's low B tier at best, in my opinion. Sprint boots, everyone almost always buys these. I don't want to put it quite S tier. It's just like a thing to get around the map faster again, right? If you get hit, you don't sprint. But like it's almost a must-have. So do I really actually have to kind of put it in S tier? I guess, right? I don't know a lot of people that don't buy this item. Healing Ride, solid B+ tier. If you don't want to leave the lane, can bring you back to full as long as you don't get hit during the channel time. Also, you can use this later on in the game just to farm creeps passively. It always gives you value. For 500, it's just a solid choice. You can almost never go wrong with this item. Bullet armor, I would value, like it got buffed and it gives you a lot of bullet resist now. I would value, but again, the meta right now is spirit damage. If you want to play tanky and defensive, or you play like a support build, you play McGinnis that wants to absorb a lot of damage, it's good. But I don't think it's nearly as valuable as some of the other options that you have in terms of getting health back. Bullet lifesteal is probably the best item if you run any gun build and you want to sustain. So I'll put this high B tier. Not the best item, but it's like a solid item you can pick up on any gun-based build and sustain in fights. It's really good. Combat barrier recently got nerfed and it was really insane before, and I still think it's very good. So this gives you increased fire rate while you have a bullet shield, and it gives you a 325 bullet shield. So this is like really high defensive value early game, and while it is defensive value, it's also offensive value, and it allows you to clear creep camps faster, allows you to clear waves faster. It gives you 25% weapon damage while shielded and 6% fire rate. And if you have any other abilities or items that give you more bullet shield, this is gonna last longer. So I think it's really good. Debuff reducer, middle of B, I would say. Very good against something like Infernus or Pocket against the Affliction. So it's a situational buy, but in the situations where you want it, it's really strong. Enchanter's Barrier, same page as Combat Barrier, almost on the same strength level, in my opinion. It reduces the cooldown of your abilities while you have a Spirit Shield, and it gives you Spirit Shield. I'll actually rate it higher than Combat Barrier because again, it saves you on spirit damage, which is like more prevalent right now, and it gives you Spirit Power while you have it active as well. A really solid pick for a lot of characters. Great on Great Talon, for example. Great on Vindicta if you play her for spirit damage. Great on something like Pocket, because on Pocket you initiate and before you take any damage, this is gonna add like an insane amount of burst to your abilities. Really solid item and can be used for a lot of characters. Enduring Speed, upgrade to Sprint Boots. That is almost always necessary. Not necessary, but like you're almost always going to buy this later in the game if you have Sprint Boots, and you only really end up selling super late game when you're really rich. So I'll put it high B tier. It reduces the slow you receive. There's a lot of abilities in the game and a lot of items that slow you down, and this negates the effect to quite a biggest extent. It gives you like 40% resistance to slow. So yeah, it's really solid. Healbane. Do I put Healbane A? I think I put Healbane A. It's like the same vibe as Toxic Bullets, where if you need to reduce the healing the enemy receives, this is like the best option in the game for anyone that doesn't use hard gun builds, whereas you would buy Toxic Bullets instead, right? So this is an insane item. It also gives you health if you kill the enemy, like an insane amount of health, but like most people buy it to reduce the healing of the enemies. And this is 40% healing reduction, so not quite as high as Toxic Bullets, but it's also cheaper. So really good item. Healing Booster, it increases the healing. If you play like support McGinnis or support Dynamo, right? Almost always a must pick because it just amps your healing capabilities even more. And if you have characters like Infernus that have a lot of sustained lifesteal, this is almost always a must buy as well. So I'll put it middle B tier. Reactive Barrier, bom, 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 bom. Insane item, in my opinion. Insane item. One of the best items in the game right now. It will allow you to stay alive against so many things that would otherwise kill you. Number one scenario, Bebop hook. If you get hooked in, this activates. If you buy this early in a lane against a Bebop, if they hook you in, sometimes you even want to get hooked in because you end up having more health when you come out of it than before. Because it gives you such a big shield when it goes active. And this works against so many things in the game, right? Like almost every character in the game has some sort of ability that triggers this. Like I don't want to say must buy, but like you can buy this in almost every game and it will get insane value. It gives you health, ammo, and it gives you a 400 bullet shield, 200 spirit shield. You will live against anyone, especially in the early game. If you're really rich, you probably end up selling this for something else, but like it's like probably the best early game defensive item you can end up buying. Yeah, Spirit, Armor, I would rate high A tier as well. Again, right now, spirit damage is meta, and spirit armor just reduces the spirit damage. It's one of the few sources that give you extra spirit reduction, and that is really valuable, right? Just buying random shit and you will have bullet resist, but if you need the extra spirit resist, you buy spirit armor, and it scales into the late game with, I guess we can go into improved spirit armor, which and improved bullet armor, which I'm both gonna put in B tier, because you can scale them up higher if needed, right? But the upgrade's not as powerful as the base thing, right? You spend more money and just get more of it. It's pretty simple. Spirit lifesteal is kind of iffy. Like, most people tend to run the more aggressive option, which is soul shredder bullets, which also gives you the spirit lifesteal. And it's really rare for a character to do 100% spirit damage only. You'll always sometimes use your gun, even on mostly spirit focused builds. So I don't think this gives you enough sustain to make it super valuable in most builds. But that being said, depending on what you buy, it's still a good buy. Divine Barrier is A tier. It's an active. It kind of is like, in my opinion, I don't want to say worse version of reactive barrier. It's just like you have to react to it, and it gives you bullet and spirit shield, both 300, right? Super solid item. You can never go wrong buying this, because it's gonna save you against anything. You pop this when you need it, and it's gonna save you. I think it's a super solid item. I almost want to put it S tier as well. If you like this more, the active playstyle of this compared to reactive barrier, you could very easily go for Divine Barrier over reactive barrier, or vice versa. Healing Nova, niche at best. I rarely see people buy this. It's like good on support McGinnis for the healing. There's almost always better options. Niche case item. Which brings me to Restorative Locket. I don't think I have I have over 300 hours in this game, probably like over 400 at this point. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone buy this item. And if I have seen someone buy this item, I didn't notice it because it didn't do anything. Because I legit don't know what this does, because nobody uses it. When an enemy uses an ability within a 50-meter radius from you, you get one charge, and then you can consume it to get all those charges, and it replenishes a stamina point and gives you healing. So that means you have to be like in the radius of the fight, so you have to rely on being in fights, and then you want to save it up to where the enemy hopefully casted enough spells to where it does anything. I think this is a terrible item. This probably needs buffs. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. I think it's awful. Unlike Return Fire. Mega OP item right now. Super OP. So for 1250, you get an item that gives you really, really good base stats. It gives you bonus health and bonus spirit power, right? But the more important part is it gives you a return on bullet damage and spirit damage, okay? So it does 60% bullet damage and 30% spirit damage, and gives you 25% bullet resist. If you pop this against a haze, they're gonna kill themselves on you by you just having this item active. If you pop this against like, any gun build, it's insane. The only way they can shoot you is if they are way stronger than you already. But if they're like the same power level as you press this button and they can't shoot you for 7 seconds. 60% of the damage return on bullet is ridiculous. And even if they don't shoot you with a lot of bullets, it's still great against spirit damage. Fortitude, C tier. This is like, I really dislike this item. I always want to put it B tier. Again, I don't see a lot of people building this. I'll put it low, C tier. It gives you flat health, which is nice sometimes. And then when you're above 75% health, you get bonus movement speed. But again, remember at the start of this video where we talked about situational, like, is it good most of the time? No. Because a lot of the time in the fights, you will be below 70% health or 75%. And then that effect is just not active. Even if you farm creep camps, sometimes you'll be below 75% and then you just don't have that effect. And then it has a passive after not taking damage for 11 seconds. Regain 4% health. That is completely useless, by the way. That's like the most useless ability I've ever seen in this game. Because 11 seconds is enough to go all the way back to base. You're not gonna hide in the corner for 11 seconds doing nothing. You will take damage in 11 seconds. Unless you AFK. You can hate me on this. Life Strike, I think is solid. Melee. For melee characters. I hate Abrams, so we're not going to talk about this too much, but I think this is insane on Abrams. But again, it's for melee-based characters mostly, right? So not super useful all the time. Superior Stamina, very solid. I think if you like the stamina. They nerfed this. This used to be insanely good. Now it's just pretty good. Most important part is it gives you way more movement options. It gives you more stamina. It allows you to dash, jump, dash, or dash, double jump, right? So it makes you move faster. It regens your stamina more. It makes you tankier because it's a green item. Super insane, like later mid-game on characters like Haze. And you can run this on almost every character. If you love movement-based playstyles, I think you can almost never go wrong with this item. Whale Walker is an interesting one. This was S tier. It gave you like insane stats, like it gives you like an insane bullet and a spirit shield every time you walk through a veil. And they nerfed this really, really hard. And now it just restores. They did nerf this quite a lot. It still restores your bullet and spirit shields, and it still gives you a decent amount of bullet and spirit shield, but this got nerfed quite hard. I still think it's a very solid item. High B. Some people will still run this. It's still amazing on gang characters that want to be up close. Like, it's amazing on Warden still, but not like universally amazing anymore, where you can buy this on any character in the game and just do insanely well with, you know? Debuff Remover, I think is kind of overrated. And don't get me wrong, it's great, okay? But nothing I hate more than people going like, oh, the enemy has a Bebop with Echo Shard, double bomb, we need to all buy Debuff Remover. Like, yes, this will save you against certain combos like Echo Shard. But think about what you're actually doing, right? If the enemy has one Bebop with Echo Shard and you buy this, mathematically there's a 1 in 6 chance you will be the target of that, right? And then, so 5 out of 6 times, you won't need this against a Bebop. Of course, it's useful against, like, there's a lot of abilities and a lot of debuffs in the game, so it's useful against, like, a pocket ult, right? Like, it's almost always applicable. But it's quite a lot of money for having this. It's quite a lot of money. My point is, it's a great item, but sometimes I see an entire team buy this just because one Bebop is really scary, and then 5 out of 6 people end up not using it or really wasting it. And if the Bebop makes the entire enemy team buy Debuff Remover just for him, then the Bebop has won, kinda, right? I don't think it's an amazing item. It's super solid and applicable in a lot of situations, but I don't think it's A or S tier. Majestic Leap, however, on characters that this is good on, like Pocket, like Lash, like characters that want the initiation or the escape this provides, is insane, okay? This allows Lash to set up insane ultimates or insane initiates. Same for Pocket. Yeah, super amazing item. Super amazing item. One of the best active items in the game. Definitely better in my opinion than Magic Carpet. People love to like. We'll get to Magic Carpet later, right? But like, yeah, I think this item is really amazing. Metal Skin is an insane hard counter to full gun damage. If the enemy has a haze and they're really scary and they pop ult, you press this button, right? And you don't die. You're immune to all their bullet damage for 3.5 seconds, and even the affliction spirit damage doesn't apply because that's part of the bullets that hit you, and the bullets don't affect you. So this is like a hard counter to gun damage. Again, I know I said this for like 5 times. Gun damage not that great right now, but situationally, if the enemy has a really scary shooting gun guy, you pop this item and you don't die, right? There's a hard counter to a certain character. It's an insane item. Really, really good. Situational, but in the situations where you need it, it's amazing. I know we're kind of deviating here, but I want to talk about Ethereal Shift, which I like even more. Because this item, we just talked about Debuff Remover and Metal Skin. I think Ethereal Shift is just one level above those. Because Ethereal Shift works against anything, right? It works against the Haze ult. It works against spirit damage. You can proc this right before you get stunned by a 7 and the stun doesn't hit you. You can proc this right before the bombs are gonna explode on an Echo Shard Bebop and it's not gonna hit you. And it gives you spirit damage after. So this is like super multi-versatile. And the reason I think this is better than most of the active counter items like Debuff Remover and Metal Skin is because it just works against everything, right? Debuff Remover does not work against Haze ult. Metal Skin does not work against Spirit Burst damage, but Ethereal Shift works against both. One of the best, I'm gonna put it S tier actually. This is like the best or one of the best defensive save my ass items in the game. It's insane. Same for Rescue Beam. Bom, bom, bom. I'm a selfish prick. I don't really play support characters. But if you are the smart person on your team, if you're the big brain, I'm the dumbass, right? I run in and then I die, or I hope my team helps me. But if you're the smart player and you're like playing the Ivy in the backline, right? Or you're playing the Kelvin, or you're playing the support McGinnis, you can save anyone from any situation with this item. If I get Black Cold, you pull me out of it. This is insane. It's a support item, so you need to be around your team, and you need your team hopefully to be kind of in position. But if your team's in position and you're behind and you have good positioning, this can save anyone. On the same page, Ethereal Shift can save anyone. It's insane. Inhibitor. It's just like a worse version of Lucky Shot in most cases. So Inhibitor slows the enemy, gives you more health, and it reduces the enemy damage output against you. Okay? So when you shoot them and you're in a 1v1 scenario, they're gonna do, I think it's 35% less damage to you. But in most cases, there's more than one person shooting you. And in most cases, like, yeah, you're gonna shoot more than one person, but you're gonna be focused on one person. And that one person might run away or try to live while his team is shooting you. I really tried to make this work on certain characters, but I found that in most situations, you just kind of end up not really using this to its full potential. It's really hard to use this to its full potential. It's like counter synergistic. It slows them down and it reduces their damage. So I guess if you catch someone out in a 1v1, they're dead. But in every other scenario, that person that you're shooting will try to get out, which the slow is nice, but then the damage reduction that it applies to them doesn't do anything. Or that person is going to turn around and shoot you, in which case the damage reduction does something, but the slow doesn't really do much. So it's like very niche. And it's not awful, so I'm not going to put it in D tier, but it's like definitely below average, for sure. It's an expensive item that doesn't do expensive things. Okay, Leech used to be really good. Maybe also hot take. It's very expensive for what it does nowadays. Like, it's multi-versatile, sustain, but the meta right now really is a lot of healing reduction, right? A lot of things do damage over time, and the meta seems to shift away from Leech. It used to be like super long sustain sites with guns where everyone has Leech and nobody dies, and this is still like a great item and almost must pick on Infernus, right? Where you have like insane healing. But on a lot of characters, it seems like a waste of money. Or it seems like you can spend those 6,200 on better items to help you out more. I think Siphon Bullets is absolute trash. They recently moved this into the, what is it, health category, whatever the green category is called. Which made it even worse, because now it gives you... now it doesn't even give you bonus damage anymore. And I would say this is more of a damage item. I find it weird that I put it in the health category. Because, so it removes max stacks from the enemy and gives them to you. So it heals you technically. And if you kill someone, they lose one max stack in total, which if you look at it, it's 45 HP, which is like almost nothing, right? So it's like a snowball item if you get this really early on certain heroes. If you have really fast fire rate on like an Ivy, Ivies used to run this and sometimes still do, or Wraith, it used to be good, but now again, it gives you more health and it doesn't add the bonus damage because it's now in the second category, in the green category. So I think it's just a mid at best, like not even mid, it's a bad item in most cases. If you want to kill a tank, there's better options. If a tank has a lot of sustain, you buy toxic bullets and you shred them with something else. And the effect, the passive, that gives you the health and removes them from the enemy, unless it comes into effect really early and you keep on stealing and killing the enemy over and over, it doesn't do much. Soul Rebirth got a pretty hard nerf. It used to be like the late game item that every character on the team would buy like late game because it gives you another life. Like you die and it makes you respawn instantly. But now it increases the respawn timer when you die eventually, like when you die for the second time, by 15 seconds, okay? So it makes the respawn insanely long if you actually end up dying completely. That being said, I'm gonna put it low A because it's still really good in late game fights because it gives you a second chance, it gives you a second life, and in super late game fights, the respawn time is already so long that if someone ends up dying with Soul Rebirth, it doesn't matter if they had it because the game would end anyways, right? If you have like a 60-second respawn and your entire team wipes a 60-second respawn, the game is over anyways. And this is an item you buy super late game for almost every character. just to give you another chance in the fight. And you don't really buy this before. So Colossus is a slept on item that people are now starting to realize how strong it is. It makes you insanely tanky. I think it gives you the biggest health boost out of any item in the game. So it gives you 20% base health, right? The base stats for 6.2k items, and another 600 bonus health, and increases your weapon and melee damage. But more importantly, when you proc this, it gives you 40% bullet resist, 40% spirit resist, and it slows everyone around you in a really big radius for 35%. So it's like Inhibitor if it was good. Okay? It slows everyone, not only the person you shoot. And you become insanely tanky. So this is insane on tank characters late game, and you don't even need to be a tank character. If you are Haze, you can pop this before you proc your ult, and if you're right in the enemy and you proc this, they're so slowed that they can't get out in time and they die. This is an insane item. It is so good on so many heroes, but it's a late game choice, obviously. Phantom Strike, I'll put it B. Almost must have on like Mo and Krill late to mid game, or Abrams, because you can follow up immediately with a Mo and Krill ult, right? You can guarantee to get the Mo and Krill ult off, or you can guarantee to get the Abrams charge off if you do it correctly. Yeah, so it's really, really good on those characters. A lot of other characters don't buy this at all. On a lot of characters, you don't want to be melee range, so I'll put it middle B tier. What I will put A tier though is Unstop. This is like BKB from Dota, and if you know anything about BKB, it's like the most broken item in the game. Now I would say Unstop is a bit less broken than BKB, because BKB also removed the damage from the abilities you do. When you used it, you will still take the damage from abilities that people do, but you won't get stunned, you won't get slowed. It removes any negative status effect. If you proc this at the right time against the right team comp, you can carry fights just by doing this. It's almost, it's a must buy on Haze. If you need to kinda, in the later game, you need to use this before you use your ult. Because otherwise you just get stunned out of it, right? Or slowed out of it and you don't do anything. So it's a must buy on a lot of heroes. And even when it's not must buy on your hero, it's an amazing item late game for almost every hero in the game. Okay, we're almost done. Doable. Ammo Scav. Got hard nerfed last patch, and it's still like the most broken spirit item in the game. So what this does is, if you deny or last hit souls, it gives you a stack. And the stack gives you 2 spirit, okay, per stack. That's the important part about this item. And the stack stays active for 30 seconds, which means as long as you're in a 30-second window, you can always refresh this item, okay? So if you do it properly in lane, if you last it half decently, that means for 500, right, you get 20 extra spirit in the early game. And I want to compare this to Improved Spirit. Improved Spirit gives you like 23 extra spirit, right? So and this is 3,500, okay? So this item gives you the most spirit in the game for the cheapest, okay? And all you have to do is last hit souls, which is what you're doing in lane anyways, right? So even if you're not the most amazing last hitter, it's gonna be really easy for you to activate this. The only thing it's gonna do is in the mid game, you will have to consciously still shoot souls even if no one else is around. So it's kind of a bit annoying to use, but this is a broken item still. It's broken. Extra charge, very good item. Banner, like you can use this on a Wraith to get an extra card in the lane, which is insane. You have 3 cards. So good on so many characters just because it gives you an extra ability charge on like Ivy. And people will upgrade this later on when they run these like spirit builds with like that specific ability into rapid recharge, which gives you even another item. Reason I'll rate rapid a bit lower is it's just the natural progression, and if you buy extra charge, you're probably gonna end up buying rapid charge if you're going the spirit route. Extra spirit is like, it's not good actually. Like, yeah, it's gonna go into Improved Spirit and then eventually Boundless Spirit, and you will buy this on something like Great Talon if you go full spirit damage, which is probably what you're gonna do right now in the meta. But otherwise, if you look at the stats, it really doesn't give you much, especially compared to something like Ammo Scavenger, right? Or even Infuser. It really just is like a passive bit of bonus. It gives you 9 spirit power, a bit of health regen, and a bit of bonus health. So it's not amazing. It's just like a necessary item you have to buy if you're going the Boundless Spirit route, which you can do on a lot of characters. But it's just passive, So it doesn't allow for a lot of skill expression like Ammo Scavenger would do. Mythic Burst, another A tier item. Almost every character has an ability or multiple abilities that add at least 80 spirit damage. So this is going to amplify your spirit damage even further. And it's going to do so passively. And more damage is good, more spirit damage is good. And eventually you can upgrade this into improved burst. Same story with extra charge, right? A lot of people are running this right now. A lot of characters are running this, right? Yamato, Wraith, Mirage. Improved reach, a bit more niche case scenario, B tier. If you have abilities that want more reach, this is amazing because it gives you more for cheap. Lash, Warden, right, like Lady Geist, etc, etc. So it's a solid item. Spirit Strike falls under the same category as Melee Strike, and I talked about Melee Strike earlier. In combination with Melee Strike, it's really good. This is a really good combo for Haze on lane. If you get a Sleep Dart, you can do insane damage with one melee. But again, it's a niche case scenario. You're not always gonna guarantee to get the melees off unless you're like in bronze elo and you punch everyone and nobody parries back, right? Or you have to set it up with something like Sleep Dart. So I'll rate this low B tier. Infuser, I think, is an A tier item. You have to be pretty smart with when you use it because it's only active for 6 seconds, but it gives you insane value for 6 seconds. I think it gives you 18 spirit power, and more importantly for this, it gives you a spirit lifesteal super early on. So this is like insane on something like Infernus on lane, because if you burn them, you proc this, you just get health back, or you proc burn, you proc this, and you run through them with your speedrun, right? And you're back to full health and the enemy dies because you have so much extra spirit. So insane active item. Almost want to put it as there. High A tier for sure. Bullet Resist Shredder, solid item. I like it. Not much to say about it other than, you know, if you apply any spirit damage, they will take more damage from your bullets. That being said, I will rate it a bit lower again because spirit is better than gun damage right now. Duration extender. Not much to say. I don't think there's like I want to say on Mirage Tornado it's good, but Tornado got nerfed like twice. You can still buy this to extend multiple abilities, but it's not like a must buy on any character, I would say. So I'll actually put this C tier. Improved cooldown, very bang for buck item because it improves all your cooldowns for the small price of 1,250. So always a solid pickup. Mystic Vulnerability is very, very good because it makes it so the enemy takes more damage from spirit, right? It lowers their spirit resist if you apply spirit damage. In a really good item right now. Works with so many things. Really, really good item. Quicksilver Reload, S tier. Bang, bang, bang. I love this item. Like, you can put this on so many different characters, on so many different abilities, and you just get a free reload. And they buff this. It gives faster fire rate when you use it, right? Yeah, 50% fire rate, and it adds spirit damage to the ability you have it on. It's so good. It is by far better than active reload. By far. Suppressor used to be mega OP. They nerfed it. So this lowers the fire rate of the enemies when you hit them with spirit damage. But it got nerfed multiple times. Now it is not nearly as potent anymore. And also they changed it. They changed the way stacking works in terms of fire rate reduction. So it doesn't stack fully anymore. Let's say you have something like Infernus and you apply a lot of fire rate reduction to the enemy passively. Now if you have Suppressor, it's not going to make them mega slow, but it's still a very solid item. Very good in a lot of scenarios. I'll put this like on the top of B tier. Top of B tier. Cold Front. If you get in on something like Lash, you click this and they get fucked. Not much to say. Speed up, decay, OP, decay, OP. You click this and they take damage. A lot of damage for free, and it scales into the late game for free because it's a percentage-based damage, okay? It's 3.1 bleed per second, and it's 50% healing reduction. Even after the nerf, it's still insane. And again, it never gets weaker over time because it always will apply the percentage-based bleed. And this is like really big bang for your buck. For 1,250, this is an insane item. Insane. On so many characters. Slowing Hex, same story. Hard meta right now. Slowing down the enemy, turns out, is very good. If you have to run away from them, you slow them, you run away, they can't catch up. If they want to run away from you, you proc this. And the strongest part about it is, it disables movement abilities. So it works like a silence, which is like insane against Wraith, for example, the teleport, right? If you click slowing hex on them, they can't teleport away. It's like a silence. The Wraith can't do anything, and you kill them for free. One of the best items in the game, for sure. And I don't think it's coincidence that it looks like most of the active items are ending up in S tier. There's so many good active items in this game. Withering Whip used to be really good, now it's just like... Nobody buys this anymore. It's like good on Haze sometimes, but like even on Haze, I guess you want slowing hex instead. Because it's just more valuable to slow down the enemy in most cases. Improved reach, not much to say. Like, it's a decent bonus for some characters. Like, you can run this with Abrams, for example, or Bebop. I think it's a lot of money investment for how I don't want to say little it gives you, but like, it's an okay item. Yeah, Improved Spirit is the same. We talked about it like Extra Spirit, right? It's just the upgrade. I kind of want to rate it higher than Extra Spirit, because once you go to Improved Spirit, it actually starts adding some value. It's good. It's like must pick on like if you want to build great talent into Spirit. It's good. It's good. Mystic Slow. Follow up to Suppressor. Superior cooldown. Actually pretty weak. A lot of money investment. Only good on very specific like abilities. Like the ability has to be really broken, in my opinion, for this to be worth it. And people, for example, ran this on Tornado on Mirage when he first came out. But now I see people move away from that even. Like, it's a lot of investment to reduce the cooldown of one ability. And if you compare superior cooldown, the reduction, to something like improved cooldown, right? Then it's not a big difference anymore. And I think you want to invest the money into something else instead. Which, superior duration, for example. This is insane on some abilities. Like, you want to have this on Burn, for example, on Infernus. Surge of Power, S tier. S tier. Movement speed, fire rate increase, and way more spirit damage on the ability you imbue. Okay? And you can proc this on, like, you can use this on anything. There's like almost no character in the game where this is not useful on. And it's not like that big of an investment. 3k for all those benefits is not a big investment. Insane to chase down targets, insane to get away from targets, insane increase of burst damage on the ability, and you get more fire rate. It's insane. S tier, easily. Torment Pulse, situational. Great on like, you can build this on Yamato, really good. I gotta be honest, I don't play characters a lot that use this, so correct me if I'm wrong. There are, I'm sure, more characters you want to use this on, like Kelvin, I guess, or like Abrams, right? I don't know enough about this item. This is like one of the items I buy the least in general. Knockdown, low A tier. Situational, very good against flyers. You kind of need this against Vindicta or Great Talon to catch them, right? Solid item to catch, but not as powerful as some of the SC items. Silence Glyph, same story. 3k investment to shut down one person. It's like a better silencer, right? For less than half the money, you shut down one person. Boundless Spirit, really big money investment, obviously, for a lot of Spirit. Infernus players seem to trend away from this, because like just having other options like Spiritual Overflow is just better, or you know, having Spiritual Overflow plus something else. This is a lot of investment for just flat out Spirit bonus, and as we just established, it is actually pretty easy to get a lot of Spirit bonus for cheap, right? So on a lot of characters you probably want to have other items instead, unless there's no other options. Like on Great Talon you want this if you build around your one. Diviner's Kevlar is very good. Makes you insanely tanky after you ult. It also gives you 40 spirit power after your ult. Especially on heroes that get the ult back quite fast. This is amazing. This is amazing on Pocket, for example. Escalating Exposure also A tier. On the same page as Mystic Vulnerability. It's just an upgrade. It's just is the more expensive and better version of Mystic Vulnerability. Mystic Reverb, also very good. I'll put it high B tier for no particular reason. Curse. You press the button and the enemy can't play the game. If the enemy has a hard carry character that is mega farmed, you press this button against them and they die. Biggest disable in the game. They can't do anything. If you use this properly, you can shut down one player. Insanely valuable. Very expensive, but insanely valuable. Echo Shard, I would call this more niche because you really don't buy this on every character, but you buy this on Bebop, for example, for the double bomb. You buy this on Mirage for the double tornado. You buy this on Ivy. It can be a really good item. And yeah, it's very solid, but it's a big investment. And you really want to use this on ability that really provides a lot of value. Refresher, same story, I think. Same story. Like, obviously must pick on Yamato right now, right? Situational and a big investment. Just like Echo Shard. And a very long cooldown as well. Magic Carpet. How much hate am I gonna get from you in the comments if I put this in D tier? I'll just put it in a low C, so you don't flame me as hard. Like, is it funny? Is it funny? Is it cool to fly around? Is it nice to get out? Sure. Can you do something better with 6,200? Like, why not buy Majestic Leap plus something else? Right? Like, I know there are heroes and scenarios where this is really good. But I feel like even on high level, people treat this as a meme. When they're like really far ahead, they do this. They initiate the fights with it. It's kind of a meme. We sat here for 2 fucking hours. It's probably going to be less in the video because my editor is going to cut off half the shit I said. But here you go. My item tier list. I'm actually pretty happy. Most of the stuff ended up average, but I'm pretty happy with this. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know if you disagree. Don't hate me too much if your favorite item is in C or D tier. C, again, just means in most cases it's a bit more niche case, okay? I'm not saying this is a terrible item. And even D tier items are useful on some heroes in certain scenarios, okay? And I think the devs did an amazing job at balancing this. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys next time. See you, friends. Bye-bye.